Hey, welcome back to Real Housewife Recaps. Today we're talking about the Vanderpump Rules reunion part 1, or as I like to call it, Jax has a midlife crisis. So we jump right in here with a shot of Lisa Vanderpump in her bra for no reason. I think she misses the spotlight from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. We see the editor still at work on Scheana. We see her insane makeup contouring. We get to see behind the scenes of the reunion as they're setting up. And Lisa tells Andy, "Are you going to get dressed?" And he's like, "What?" It was pretty funny. So then we get into the reunion and Andy asks Lisa what it's been like with COVID, having to close the restaurants temporarily. And she says it's emotionally and financially draining. The staff are on unemployment until they can come back. Then we hear about Stassi and Beau's new house. And we hear about Scheana's new Australian boyfriend. And this picture just kind of made me laugh. And then Andy says, having just watched a finale episode, "Jax, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to appear on your show." Everyone laughs. And Jax says, sometimes when you're arguing, stuff comes out. And I've been known to say stupid things. Lisa said, "I actually think he does think it's his show. And if he could change the name of it, he would, to Jax and Friends." Then we get into Stassi's book, Sandoval versus Stassi. Andy asks, "Katie, why do you think Sandoval blew up at Stassi?" Katie said, "That's the most confusing part, because he knew about the details." And then Beau says, "We had a guys' night where he was talking about the drinks he was going to make for the event. When the text came in, it blew my mind that he was texting that." And Tom Sandoval says, "Obviously, I was in a bad space. I was super stressed out. She went to Schwartz so she would get a yes." Andy says, "Is there a narrative going on that you were jealous?" Sandoval says, "Look, I was stressed out. If it didn't go well, I would look bad." So then we get into the weird Dana and Max situation. Andy asks, "Max, how would you describe your relationship with Scheana?" Max says, "It was hard. I worked a lot. We would try to do things or activities." Andy says, "You would do the kind of things that would buy you an Apple Watch?" Andy says, "You kept suggesting that you were exclusive with Dana. Then you downplayed it with Katie and Schwartz, saying Dana was taking it more seriously than you. Why were you bringing up exclusive if you weren't feeling it?" And Max, "I just don't believe anything he says. I think he's a sleazeball." He says, "I downplayed it because I didn't need to be running around talking about what I'm doing." Dana says, "Then why did you even say it? It didn't need to be said." And she made a good point here, and I forgot about that girl wearing the Tom shirt. She says, "You were trying to keep her as an option in the background." And Max infuriatingly says, "Whatever makes you feel better." Then Max says the dumbest thing, which is, it's the same with all you girls. I hang out with you for 2 weeks and you just run with all of your emotions with me. And Andy says, "Dana, you and Max kind of reconnected after we finished filming." And Dana says, "We spent the holidays at Tom and Katie's. It felt unfinished to me." Max is the worst. I just don't think he or Brett add a single thing to the show. And then Andy drops an absolute bomb and says, "Well, Max, we know you've slept with Scheana and you slept with Dana. Is there anyone else in the Sir Tom Vanderpump universe you want to fess up to messing around with?" Max says, yeah, I've hooked up with Kristen before, twice. Everyone freaks out, and so did I. I don't even know what to say. I just think he's disgusting, and I don't understand why all these girls are sleeping with him. And Lala says, "You guys, stop giving Max your pee. He doesn't deserve it." So Stassi says, "I thought Dana and Kristen are friends, and I'm shook right now. I thought Kristen had been in a relationship when you were single. When were you single?" Kristen said it was in the fall. Stassi says, "You're friends with Dana. What are you doing?" And James is screaming, "This is ridiculous." Dana says, "I am disgusted with you, Kristen. You and I talked so many times and that never came up. That's pretty messed up." Kristen says, "I didn't know you guys. I didn't know you that well this summer." And Dana says, "I'm literally shocked right now." I thought Stassi actually nailed the moment pretty good. She says, "I'm shaken up by this." It's so effing on brand for you to act like you're so close to Dana and then do what she's talking about while she's talking about him. You were born shady, you remain shady, and you're a liar and have no remorse. And I don't know, I'm not the biggest Stassi fan, but I thought she made a pretty good point there. Kristen kind of has a history of doing stuff like this. She puts herself in these very weird situations. And James says, you use everybody and F everybody you want because you're a piece of shit. And I found that very funny coming from James. Sober James may be able to say that, but the James we've seen before, ooh, he's a piece of shit too. Then we go into a section about the new people who I really just don't care about. I guess Dana's okay, but she has terrible taste in men. Andy tells Jax, a lot of people said you felt threatened by the new people at SUR. Jax says, I wasn't threatened. I just wasn't into new people and starting the new relationships. When we had the old relationships were so strong, that's all. And Andy asks Charlie if she thinks Jax feels threatened. Charlie says, threatened enough to go on Twitter rampage and do tweets about me when I don't even know this 50-year-old man. He's a bully, so I could give two shits what Jax thinks or wants. So as far as I'm concerned, he's done. He's wrapped. So he and Charlie go back and forth. He calls her insignificant. She calls him being old. Lala and Kristen are telling Charlie that she sounds real dumb. And Lisa says, settle down and show some respect. I don't know whose side I'm on this one. Charlie just does not come across as extremely bright, but Jax is tough this season. I'm usually okay with Jax, but he's been hard to watch. So then we go into a section about how they all love to dress up and all the events they dressed up for. And somehow they turned that around to bring up when Randall had Sandoval fake arrested, and when Schwartz went off on Katie saying things like, shut up, and I've never been more turned off in my life. And Andy asked, what part of you thought that was okay to speak to her that way? And Sandoval says, there's no excuse and I apologize. But if we're going to dissect it, in that moment, Randall had put so much time and effort into the prank. And in that moment, I saw her like the embodiment of canceling. Lala says, you're never allowed to speak to her that way ever again, or I'm throwing down on your ass, whatever that means. I'm just not into Lala this season. But I think that's such crap. So Schwartz is saying because Randall put in all this effort to a really stupid, not funny prank, he gets to disrespect his wife like that? You can disagree, but you don't have to name call and say all those hurtful, horrible things. Vanderpump says the insults Tom throws at Katie, it's more than just insults, it's humiliating, and it's putting her down. So the next section shows where Jax has been talking so much crap about Ariana. And first of all, why don't you figure out what sexuality you are, because it changes every day. Jax says, I apologize for that. It was garbage coming out of my mouth, and I shouldn't have said it. And good for Andy here, because he called him out and said, well, you said it several times. You said it on Watch What Happens. What is it about being bisexual that you don't understand? Jax says, I understand it. Andy asks, do you have judgment on it? Does it bother you? Jax says, no, she just bothers me, not bisexuality. Ariana says, I don't think it's hard to understand what it is to be bisexual. I've never flip-flopped on that. And it's also fun to know that I bother you so much. Danica says, but why are you obsessed with figuring it out? And I ask the same question, who cares? Isn't it Ariana's life? If you claim not to care about her, why is he obsessed with it? Jax says she bothers me. We don't get along. We don't like each other, so that's fine. Charlie chimes in. Jax says, and who are you? And Andy says, she's a cast member on Jax and Friends. So then Andy brings up Lala, saying, Lala, you got a lot of heat on social media when Jax made that comment to Ariana at dinner because you also had bi encounters with Ariana herself. So Lala says, even though I don't say I'm bi, I don't think there's anything wrong with being bi or gay or whatever you want. Andy says, you're on Instagram Live and kind of went off on Tom and Ariana. Lala says, well, it got me riled up. I feel like Tom and Ariana, once I became friends with everyone else, they didn't really give a shit about me versus when I was new and floundering. And Ariana says, well, there were all these vacations I didn't know about until I saw them on social media. I felt like you were pulling away. Tom says, and that's why I said that fair-weathered friend comment. I've always loved and adored you. I felt like last year I was floundering and you saying behind my back that I need to toughen up. I should have gotten over that, but I've carried that with me, and it was really hard on you this season. And Ariana says, if I didn't apologize then, I apologize now. When I was saying that, I was bitter about my experience, and Lola says that means a lot. And then we get to the final part of the episode. It's Jax versus Sandoval. So Andy asks Jax, why are you so mad at Sandoval for seeing his family instead of going to your pre-bachelor party? And Jax says, there were things prior to that I wasn't hearing back. They were fighting over texting. Andy says, Sandoval, it seemed like you were aware of the hateful posts of that pastor. Why didn't you go to Jax sooner? Sandoval says, we thought something had been done. And when I found out it hadn't happened, Schwartz jumps in here and says, it felt like an indictment and it was perceived as being smug or righteous. And Jax says, why can everybody else understand that but you guys? Which I found very funny coming from Jax, who doesn't catch on to anything. Andy says, did you think the comments were going to come up on the show? Jax says, I don't understand why you have such an issue with it considering what your manager has said. And he's talking about Max with the hateful speech that Max said, as well as Brett online. So Andy decides to put a pin in the pastor part and wants Max and Brett to have the opportunity to say what they want to say about the hateful messages that they had previously sent out regarding race. And they apologized and say that they want to move forward. Vanderpump says, I've never seen any inkling of racism in either of them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be working for me. Brittany and Jax get into it a little bit. Brittany's getting more upset, and this is when it really goes down. Sandoval says, I've been a way better friend to that MFer, and I've never had anyone do more effed up things to me, to a friend or a foe, than that MFer Jax Taylor, which was kind of shocking to hear Sandoval say. Jax says, yet you still want to come to my wedding. I didn't even want you there. I got bullied into it by the girls, which is such crap. Sandoval says, come the F on. I asked you if you want to be there. You expected your mom to call you after all the shit you said about her, and everyone freaks out. And Sandoval says, you don't care about anyone but yourself, and everybody is yelling. And that is a hell of a way to end that episode. So next week, it looks like Dana's going to talk about Max hooking up with Sheena in Palm Springs. Kristen's yelling about how James treats Raquel. Raquel says the funniest line, which is, I'm too young and pretty to be putting up with BS from James. James reflects on drinking, and it looks like it's Kristen versus Stassi versus Katie. And that's it. I'll be honest with you, I thought this season's just been okay. There's been seasons that I love in the past. This is not one of them. I don't really know how to fix it, but I don't know. I thought the reunion part 1 was pretty explosive. I love the bomb dropped about Max and Kristen. I thought that was really funny. Curious if she slept with Brett too. And I absolutely think Jax is losing his mind. I think he's not happy with his marriage or his life, and he takes it out on everybody else. Nothing is ever his fault. That is it for me, guys. I so appreciate you tuning in. Check back next week, and I'll do part 2 of the reunion. I'm doing Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and New York. I'm doing Below Deck Med, which just started, so join me on that. And I also recap Fleabag, so check it out. I'm on Twitter at Real Recaps, so you can find me there, or you can comment down below, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about the episode. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.